Almost exactly a year ago, I decided that I needed some time and space. And so I asked a couple of friends, where in the world could I go that would be relatively safe, warm, where it wouldn't be too busy with marketing messages, equally not too poor that I would start thinking about the problems, and critically somewhere where I didn't know anybody. And they suggested to me Costa Rica. And so I booked a flight, and a couple of weeks later I set out on a journey, a pilgrimage, if you will, to the Mecca of biodiversity, to the Corcovado rainforest near the Panama border, which has 2.5% of the world's biodiversity under one canopy. I went there looking for big cats and big birds, but what I found was something quite different. I found the beauty in the detail of the butterflies, in the marching ants whose lines go on for miles carrying leaves, and in the termites who build their little ecosystems so complicated that we're yet to understand them. It wasn't just in the rainforest that I found beauty in Costa Rica. Almost everywhere I went, I was welcomed in. The locals, who had very little, offered to buy me beers, and I was waiting for the catch, but they wanted nothing in return. Always greeted with smiles, with offers for lifts home to my hotel from the bars. Something I have never experienced on my travels before, not in any other country around the world, and it absolutely blew my mind. This kind of giving lifestyle wasn't completely new to me, and I guess my ears were pricked because for the last few years I've been thinking about giving, thinking about why we give, what the true value of giving is, and therefore how do we optimize for a more giving culture. Asking questions on Facebook to my friends like this: is it more effective when we share our giving with others to encourage them to do so, or is it more effective when we give in silence, in private, a more selfless act? I didn't have the answers to these questions, so I enlisted the help of a bunch of people from around the world who have spent their lives thinking about these subjects through different disciplines. From Jane Goodall, who's mobilized over 1 million young people around the world to think holistically about taking small actions to solve problems in their local communities, to neuroscientists thinking about the neuroscience of compassion, a behavioral economist, a macroeconomist, and a data and philanthropy wonk, self-proclaimed. I began to mix up these ingredients about the different aspects of giving and think about what's important. See, what troubled me in the online giving culture in the UK that I was exposed to at that time was the focus on individual transactional values, looking at how much you give rather than how much you give, which creates artificial social norms in the context in which you're giving, which doesn't fit congruently with our history as humans and how we give throughout the ages. I started to think about a different metric that might be more effective in trying to develop the right kind of behaviors rather than looking competitively. So we started to think not about your individual transaction value or in how much you give over the year, but about your giving frequency. What is the length of time between your donations, and how do we encourage you to give little and often? I began to develop our platform, Givvy, our social donation platform, around this concept. What if at the heart of the culture we celebrate those who give most frequently with their money? What behaviors could this lead into in the rest of their lives with people's time and energy, stuff that is harder to track and control? We wanted to turn it into a really powerful business model, and so I began to look at different businesses we could work with to embed this system within workplaces in the UK.
Hi, I'm Nicole Yershin. I founded Ogilvy's Digital Innovation Lab in London.
So from our perspective, the results were pretty clear cut. Just under 2% signed up to the Give As You Earn scheme, but actually a little over 11% signed up to the Givvy scheme.
Our little experiment with 121 people at Ogilvy showed the Givvy platform was a convincing winner. 5 times as many sign-ups, 10 times more donations, and users reporting greater happiness and fulfillment.
So you would think after that the marketplace would be ours and it would be a done deal and we'd be soaring. But the truth, unfortunately, is that it's been tricky. With a year of trying to really focus on selling this solution into businesses to scale our change in the giving culture, we really struggled. And that either means we've got a bad business, we're bad at business, or we're not in the right place to do this business. And so I began to think about, do I want to carry on growing in a linear fashion this platform that we've built that is moving at more than $1 million a year to 1,000 different charities in the UK. But that doesn't really sit with the vision that we started with, a go big or go home strategy. Maybe if I can get to the heart of the technology culture, maybe I'll find new relationships and partnerships that can help us scale and continue on the risk profile trajectory that we set out on this journey with. Thankfully, one of the good parts of this journey has been being able to crystallize that intuitive question I had about what the real value of giving was into 3 distinct effects that we can measure. That is unique only to the value transfer method of giving, not in the barter or formal financial economies. The first is the true effect, the neurochemical effect that when we give with altruistic intent specifically, that has on our own neurochemistry and reward circuitry, but that also leads to health benefits, seeing that those engaging in an active giving lifestyle live longer and more happy lives. The second is the social effect, when we choose to give and share that behavior, not necessarily the transactional values, but showing that we are materially engaging with things that matter. It is a very powerful effect, things that we see this effect for years in churches and religious organizations, but also more recently in things like the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge. And then thirdly, present in all kind of financial value transfers, is the capital effect. Where does this money go that you have collected to actually solve problems for people at the other end? And in conversations with my friend Michael Green, who I engaged with in my earlier conversations, his biggest critique after writing the book Philanthrocapitalism was that philanthropists don't take enough risks with their money, that philanthropy is the passion capital of society and needs to be treated so. So I had a choice. Do I stay in the UK and carry on doing what we've been doing, business as usual, or do I take a risk and go and change location and see what can happen? So earlier this year, I carried myself off to San Francisco, and I've been staying in my friends' horse stables, in garages, on couches, meeting as many people as I can, trying to get to the heart of the technology culture to develop these new partnerships that could lead us to scaling these kinds of principles within the technology space. A couple of months of me being in there, a friend of mine called Louis, who we've traveled the world together for the last 15 years, and very conveniently, he's become quite famous on YouTube in the last couple of years. I started sharing with him some of these ideas that maybe the most effective usage of philanthropic capital is investing in small voices with big ideas. And so on the way to the airport to drop him off, we made a video in the car, rigged up on the rear view mirror, asking young people from around the world if they have an idea to submit it in a video response to what we called the Solvi project.
I should point out that this is simply just a brainwave. I don't have any planning for it whatsoever.
I want to be able to be that change for them.
So I have come up with an idea.
What we do is we build tiny homes.
I want to help teenagers with mental health issues.
I want to create the world's first zoo that doesn't house a single living animal.
Thank you for the opportunity to express our ideas.
We were overwhelmed by the response. I knew some people would watch the video, but I didn't know that they would actually take the action to respond. Over the next 2 weeks, we had 80,000 views from 150 countries. We had 85 applications from 20 of those countries. I locked myself in Starbucks for a week solid, never worked so hard on a single task, whittled them down to a long list of 25 and a short list of 10, and then in the end chose to put one team in the Solvi spotlight. We flew them over to Los Angeles to be part of the mecca of the YouTube culture, VidCon, 20,000 young people coming to hear from their favorite YouTubers. And we held an event. We invited people for one wave to share their message about how they're trying to solve the problem of mental health that affects 450 million people around the world right now. They have a unique model where they take people out surfing, get them to wear bright colors at the heart of Bondi, making it desirable, getting them in nature, giving them permission to talk about these issues, destigmatizing something that is crippling for people all around the world. We felt, crucially, that the timing was right. They were ready for us to try and put some fuel behind their ideas and help them launch in other countries their first group in LA will launch in January. But the real exciting fruit from this exercise was not in necessarily who got in the spotlight this year, but the talent I saw coming through that we get to engage with and be a part of going into the future years.
Hello there, my name is Ritvik, I'm 14 years old, I live in Bangalore. In developing countries like India, public places are very dirty and toilets are very unhygienic, which means there are more and more chances of us getting in contact with infectious bacteria. What if we could just move our smartphone on our hand for a few seconds and all the bacteria got killed? I created a smartphone case that produces ultrasound. It has a microcontroller and a piezoelectric element. The microcontroller is programmed to oscillate so fast that the piezoelectric element connected produces ultrasound. I verified this using a number of oscilloscopes and programs. Now, to see if my project really killed bacteria, bacteria had to be grown in a petri dish. And then it was viewed under a microscope to see live bacteria, and then hit with ultrasound from my smartphone case and again viewed under a microscope to make sure the bacteria was killed.
So that's Ritvik, 14, now 15 years old. I since did a bit of research and found out that killing 70% of bacteria isn't that helpful. So I asked him, what would it take to get to 99.9% of bacteria killed? Is that possible? And he said, yeah, of course, I just need a better component. And 2 weeks later, he emailed me back and said, I think I'm ready to do our crowdfunding now for the new component. I said, well, how much do you need? And he said, $10. So I said, send me the link, and I bought it, and he's now testing it on a new set of bacteria to see whether he's got it up to the right level. This was so exciting for me, to get out of middle management bureaucracy and actually connect directly with compassionate problem solvers that are committed to trying to use the best of their heart and smarts to try and go on an entrepreneurial and philanthropic journey into providing solutions for needs that they see around them. These are the kinds of people that I want to be a part of making rock stars of tomorrow. This is the new component when it arrived. And I feel like there's 3 distinct pieces of capital that I can help try and aggregate to help grow ideas. And one of them is intelligence, especially using the internet. Not mine, but by exposing good ideas to other people, we can attract relationships, critique, connections. We can offer social reach. We can help him connect and bring more people like you guys right now on his journey. And the third, obviously, is financial support in order to help him buy more components. This exhilarating experience of going through this whirlwind of the Solvi project made me reevaluate what work is worth doing. And it takes me back to Costa Rica. I told you intuitively I felt like I experienced something there I hadn't seen anywhere else. And again, mentioning my friend Michael Green, who runs something called the Social Progress Index. Instead of measuring countries based on their economic output or GDP, he's built an index that ranks them on their ability to meet the needs of their constituents. Does everybody have what they need to feel safe? Do they have freedom of expression? Do they have the building blocks for opportunity? Currently, Costa Rica ranks at 77.88 out of 100. The UN 2030 development goals are to get everybody up to an average of 75. They're already outperforming that today, despite being on a per capita income, GDP per capita at just over $10,000, as opposed to the average at 14. They're an absolute outlier up to the left on Michael's graph, dramatically outperforming their GDP. And what does this say? It says that actually improving GDP or economic output for poor countries is helpful, but has increasingly diminishing returns. And that actually something else is going on. GDP is not destiny. There is something else that happens every day in Costa Rica, though, and it's this phrase that you will hear, and I'll let them tell you. Whether you're in a bar getting a drink from someone, getting a smile, a lift somewhere, or whether the directions that the guy gave you to go through the river go wrong and you need help to get stuck out of the river, you'll hear this.
Pura vida, mãe!
Pura vida, mãe! Pura vida. It means pure life. I can't say that I know exactly, but it feels like there's something in the culture of Costa Ricans that says that what they have is enough. They don't have the same striving that I see in other cultures around the world. And I think that lack of striving gives them a surplus of energy that allows them to give, whether it's beer or their time or their energy or pushing me out of a river when my car gets stuck. But we're not in Costa Rica. Clearly, we're somewhere quite different, actually. Germany per capita is 11th on GDP, but 14th on progress. The data suggests that whilst you're doing well on things like social housing, you're lagging behind on your relative peers on issues like obesity and suicide. We ran a workshop earlier called Make, because I love to just get on and do it before we have a chance to overthink things and think of all the reasons why we're not going to let ourselves have the permission to get on and do something. So if you're sitting here thinking you want to do something good, there's a couple of starting points, and the internet's a good place to start. Growing up in school, I heard a lot of stuff about science and maths and English. I never really felt like anybody ever told me what the point was. Until a couple of years ago, I discovered a word that was coined by Aristotle, which is eudaimonia, which means human flourishing. And given what we talked about earlier, that we can only manage what we measure, it's absolutely vital that we measure the right things. If we measure the wrong things, we'll become misguided and we are screwed. I wish I could stand here today telling you I know exactly what my plan is for next year, what the most important technologies are. But I think if there's one thing that the journey of this year's taught me, it's that in the increasingly changing climate that we live in, being comfortable with the unknown is one of the most important things you can afford yourself. It certainly has been for me. One thing I've learned from the Costa Ricans, though, is that learning to design a lifestyle around simplicity that allows a surplus of energies is something vital to improve the communities that we're living in. I'd like to leave you with a few words that I wrote. When you have gone as big as you can, all that is left is to go deeper. Deeper into meaning, deeper into love. Deeper into the smallest gifts that come from above. Once you go as deep as you can, not science nor religion can affect your stance. Left only with your observance of matter, it matters where you glance. We don't know if a tree makes a sound when no one's there to hear it. But we know if you are, then it changes something deep within us. Danke für deine Zeit.